Hello, friends. Welcome and namaste. This is Crystal Joy of CJoyYoga. And for today's practice, I would love it if you could get a chair or just something that has a little bit of height on it. It could be a wall as well. And we're going to utilize that for a pose we're going to go into a little later. Otherwise, once you get that, hit pause if you need to, come on back. And we're going to start lying down on our backs. So once you get down onto your back, go ahead and just come into constructive rest pose. Take a few moments here and just notice your relationship between the back body and the floor. And of course, particularly, I like to focus on the pelvis all the way up to the skull, right? So the area of the spinal column, I'll call that. Notice if your low back is up away from the floor or down really close to the floor, or maybe even on it. Notice if your lowest ribs are touching the earth, or are they coming up away from it? Notice your shoulder blades. Are they kind of wrapped around the ribs up towards the sky? Are they a little closer together? Are they fairly flat between the spine and the floor? There is no right or wrong with any of this, y'all. This is just what's happening in your body. You're just simply observing right now. And the neck spine, is that in a big curve up away from the floor? Somewhere between or all the way down, pardon me, towards the floor? Now go ahead and walk your feet in and extend your legs out. But we're going to work the legs for now, right? So I'm pretending I have a wall in front of me that my feet are making contact with, my toes pointing up to the sky, and I'm flexing my feet, pushing my heels into the imaginary wall. Bring your arms in a little closer to your side. And then with an inhale, let your right arm start to reach overhead. Put your left hand on your hip and just hold that hip from, you're not pushing it down, you're just not letting it go anywhere, and you're just noticing what happens to it when I give the next direction. As you push your right heel forward and you reach your right fingertips back in opposite directions, notice what happens to the left. The hand was on the hip. Did you notice anything happen with that left hip? And the right side body, anything happen on the right side? So maybe not. I'll point out a couple of things you might notice. The right side body might have gotten longer, right? Stretched out more. I like to say lengthened. I think that's more accurate. And you might have a little bit of contraction or shortening of the muscles on the left side of the body. The left hip moved up to the left shoulder. Go ahead and release that. Come back down. Put your right hand on your right hip. Recalibrate the body if you can. Bring that left arm up and over. Pause. When you're ready, push your left foot further forward, reach your left fingertips further back. And again, notice that relationship and see if that indeed does happen in your body. When you lengthen the left fingers and heel away from one another, does the left side of the body lengthen? And conversely, is that the word I'm looking for? Does the right side shorten? And go ahead and release that down. Put your feet on the ground. When you bring your arms in by your side, you're going to reach both of them overhead. And I want you to pay attention to what happens in the low ribs. So inhale, start to reach those arms overhead. And when we have the feet on the ground, it's usually a lot easier to maintain the contact of the low floating ribs. This is not everybody, but many of us will let the ribs come up off of the earth due to the tightness in the shoulders, right? We overcompensate in the mid spine to get the arms overhead. So if you're noticing you do that, can you soften the ribs back down to the ground? If the answer is no, lift your arms up a little bit, get your low floating ribs back down to the earth, and then try to re-lower the arms, and maybe don't go all the way down. Put a blanket under them or something, right? But try to keep the ribs down. I'm also using a little muscular action on the front of my abdomen to help that action. And bring the arms down by the side. Now extend the legs back out, work them like we were before, but this time both heels are pushing equally, right? It's a lot harder in this position to keep the ribs down. So if you notice they were coming up on the other one, chances are really great they're going to come up on this one. So when you start to reach the arms up, get them just pointed to the ceiling first, right? Soften the shoulders down to the earth. find that long spine, start to find containment on the front of the abdomen, pelvic floor, low belly, upper belly, right? And then try to keep those low ribs down and reach the arms only as far as you can, maintaining the low ribs on the earth. And you might discover, oh gosh, I can't quite get my arms, right, even towards the edge of my face. Maybe you come a little lower than that, maybe not. Maybe you still can reach your thumbs. My palms are faced to each other, by the way. Maybe the thumbs can reach to the earth. But you know, with all this stuff, at what expense? Are you doing that because you think that's just the best place to be? But if every time you reach your arms overhead, your ribs flare up, you're not opening your shoulders more, right? You might be compressing that mid back. I mean, you're probably getting some opening in the shoulder, but we could be a little wiser with it potentially. Bring those arms down by the side. Okay, put the feet on the ground. You're going to reach the right leg up. We've been getting into eye of the needle this way lately. Rotate your outer thigh out, your right thigh, right? Externally rotate, and then put the ankle on the left knee. Now, with that left foot staying on the ground for now, tee your arms out and just let your legs rock right center, left center, right center. It doesn't matter which way you went first, but just go ahead and rock back and forth, not stabilizing much. I mean, you can put a little concentration into keeping the shoulders softening down. You don't have to nail them to the earth or anything, but if they stay down, you get more of a twist in the lower body. And then when you come back up and you're standing on that left foot, you can stay here, or you can go into any of the variations that you would like of eye of the needle. My request is, right, lengthening the spine a little bit, especially with where we're going to go today. We're going to try and do this on one foot, standing, right? But we want the long spine. So when you brought the leg in, if you did, you rounded the spine to get to it. Your low back just flattened down to the earth, I bet, right? So can you push your thigh into your hands? Can you lengthen your spinal column? I could say reach your buttocks bone forward. I could say uncurl your tailbone. I could say lift your low back up off of the floor, right? All of these things are trying to get to the same thing, a neutral spine. And breathe. From here, I'm going to have that left knee still be in line with my left buttocks bone to the best of my ability. That right knee gently reaching away from my right shoulder. Little flex in the right foot helps the knee joint stay nice and healthy here. And release that down. Both feet. Pardon me. Reach the left heel up. Again, externally rotate from the left thigh and then place the ankle on the knee. Before we even think about that, bringing the legs in, we're going to tee the arms out and we're going to go ahead and we're going to rock our legs from side to side. Again, it doesn't matter what way you go first. Doesn't matter how far in you go, if you touch the ground or any of that stuff. You're just simply letting that pelvis find a little bit of freedom. I love making the 20-minute because I know they're the most used. And so I love giving you little nuggets that you can do. But with stuff like this, man, these are ones where I wish I had an hour and a half class because, man, the hips sure can get awfully tight, right? So from there, come back to center. You're standing on the right foot. Again, feel free to work this wherever you want. If you choose to bring the leg in, whether it's strapped, your hands are on your shin, your thigh, doesn't matter, right? Any of those. By nature, bringing the thigh closer, you've gone into flexion. Your low back is on the ground. So for today's purposes, push your right thigh forward. It's like when we push that right heel and we lengthen. Do you remember that? So lengthen the spine as long as you can. You might consider letting go of how close you are with it and using a strap or some other thing if that helps you find a neutral spine. The low ribs are down on the ground, but the low back is not, right? Breathe. That left foot a little flex, that left knee gently moving away, and breathe. Bring the right foot down, bring the left foot down. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to rock up. So you can grab the backs of the legs, come through fetal position, whatever works best for you. Let's come on to hands and knees just for a couple of cat-cows to move the spine a little more. So nothing too fancy with your cat-cows today. As you're moving back and forth, just get a sense of where your spine is in space. Like literally, what is your spinal column doing with these two moves? There are other benefits for sure. I think cat-cow, one of its greatest benefits is moving the spine in and out of flexion and extension, two of the 6 motions of the spine. Come on back to center. Wag your tail to the right, look over your right shoulder. That's that shortening, contracting of one waist, lengthening the other side of the body, right? So then go over the left and go back and forth a couple of times, moving the spine in and out of lateral extension to the right and left. 2 more of those 6 motions of the spine. And we already did twisting from our back, so we're going to leave that one out for now. You're going to go ahead and come into a downward facing dog. My request is this: when you get into your downward dog, I want you to come forward halfway to plank. So you're not all the way in, right? This allows us to find a little more of the shoulder girdles. So you're going to go ahead and push down into your finger pads, not just the heels of your hands. Rotate your outer upper arms in towards one another, right? And then slowly with bent knees, reach those arms overhead. Now, if when you were laying on your back, your ribs were coming off of the ground, the low ones, can you imagine you have a wall against your back side and your shoulder blades, the back of the head, the low ribs, and the pelvis all touch it, but the neck and the low back gently come away from it? Maybe you straighten the legs, but if you lose the spine, please don't today. And breathe. Walk your hands back to your feet. You'll end up at the back of the mat. Let's fold in for a moment with the knees bent, maybe grabbing elbow points and just lengthening, releasing compression in the neck and the shoulders. Hands on shins, reach chest forward, coming halfway up. Right here, I want you to imagine I put a wall down across your back, right? You're about parallel to the ground, by the way, your torso. Would your back of your head, your shoulder blades, your low floating ribs, and the sacrum all hit the same wall? And would your neck and your low back gently come away from the wall in this position of gravity, be towards the ground? They're not dropping down, right? They're just not bucked up on the wall. Hands on the hips, elbows up, come on up. So hopefully that's making sense. The reason we started on our back was because I really wanted you to have the sensation of something against your back so you could use it as I always think of it as a biofeedback mechanism. Time for chair. So with the chair, we're going to put our hands on, hopefully it's a fairly flat, wide chair. You want to go pretty wide with your hands so they're about shoulder distance, something like that. And then walk back a few breaths, almost where you were for half plank. You can leave the palms turned down. You can also turn the palms to you, which helps us with more ease. Many of us find that external rotation of the outer upper arms, right? So before you go all the way into downward dog on the chair, I want you to find this place right here, right? The knees are a little bit bent, so same idea. Move those shoulders, shoulder blades onto the back and down towards the buttocks. Of course, they're an upward rotation, right? But we're not going to go fully into that and let them just fly out of the sockets. Maybe you step a few steps back, and as you start to reach the buttocks bones back and lengthen into what is a version of downward dog standing, hands on the chair, right? Again, if I brought down a wall, a ceiling onto your body, what parts of your back body would be in contact with that wall? And can you try to replicate that neutral spine we started class with the best you can? It's more effortful here. You betcha. We got to turn a lot of things to make it happen. That's part of the point. Okay, walk forward with your hands on the chair. So let's combine some of these things. So go into that. I'm back just a little bit. My palms can be down or I can be on my pinky fingers, either one, right? Find that upper body first and try to find the longest spine. And don't worry, we're not going to actually walk the feet back for this one. We're going to do eye of the needle, right? So bend your knees a little bit so you have a perch with which to put your leg on. And then let's go ahead and let's bring our left ankle onto our right knee. Now, I don't know about all y'all, but when I did that, my right hip switched out to the right. My right knee started to go across the way, right? So we want to keep that right hip. You might even put your right hand, the thumb in the crease, move that right hip back and lengthen the spine forward. The buttocks bones back, crown of the head forward. Maybe bend that right knee a little more, right? That knee goes straight forward. You can look down and see it. Make sure it's going straight forward and in line. Well, I say in line with the second toe, but my toe always turns out a little bit on this one because I have a torqued calf on the right side, right? So you do you, and then push down into the, you can bring the hands forward again, push down into the chair and try to find the spine and maintain the spine. And maybe you sink a little lower, maybe you don't. If your hip moves out, your knee moves across to the left, etc. If you can't keep your left foot flexed, if you can't keep the left knee gently moving away from you, if your ribs are flaring down to your shins, all those things, if you can't maintain it today, maybe don't go lower. If it's available and you want to walk down to the lower level of the chair, you could, if that's available to you, or you could walk down and put your fingertips on blocks or on the ground. I forgot to warn you to have blocks here. And you might even bend the knees a little further. I'm not going to teach the arm balance. You could take the time to take it if that's something you work with regularly, but I'm going to ask you to do it with alignment. That right hip moving back, that right knee moving straight forward, lengthen the spine, lengthen the spine. And then we're going to come up from wherever the heck we just were and put the foot down on the ground. Whew. Breathe. One more side, friends. Hands on the chair, step back a little bit. Again, it's like kind of that half plank type position, right? And then bend your knees. Find your upper back because it just gets harder from here. Find the whole spine, really. My ribs already want to flare like crazy. And then I'm put that right ankle on that left knee. Flex the foot, thigh moves away from me. Now I'm going to take my left thumb in my hip crease and I'm going to move that hip back and I'm going to use it as leverage, right? My buttocks bones reach back and my chest reaches forward. My crown of my head reaches forward. I may go a little lower, but that's not the point. The point is I'm lengthening, and I'm trying to keep the neutrality of my spinal column. I have to bring my ribs back up and in because they are flaring like crazy. That's my pattern. And you might bring the hand forward again. Now find the upper back before you drop lower. Push down into your hands. Right? Try to find that spine without your ribs moving away from the, if you had a ceiling above you, it's still the same work, right? Maybe you bring your hands down to the lower level of the chair, or I'm grabbing the sides of the back of my chair. Maybe the fingertips come down to blocks or the ground and you sink a little lower and you can kind of bring that right foot around the left arm, right? But I keep moving my hips back, my buttocks bones, reaching my chest forward, and I try to get my spine as long as I possibly can and come all the way up. And bring that foot down. Not that you ever have to go there, but that's the work that eventually leads you into an arm balance. I'm not even going to show it because I'm not at that place in my practice and I have some fatigue going these past couple of days. But that moves you towards an arm balance. But we don't ever have to do the arm balance. Listen to my breath. I mean, given I've had fatigue going, but I'm out of breath and I had to work pretty darn good. Yeah. So since we have the chair, let's just pull the chair around. Let's sit down in it. On the edge, please. So you got that long spine. Walk your feet wide. Turn your fingers in. Just a couple of things here and we'll end. Let that left shoulder work towards that right knee. Inhale up. It's almost like you're showing me the back of your shoulder, right? So as the right shoulder comes down, it's almost like you're showing me the back of the right shoulder. Inhale up. Let's do that one more time to each side, friends. Exhale in. Inhale up. And exhale in. Inhale up. Your feet can be wherever they're the most comfortable. You're going to give yourself a hug with one arm on top, either one. You can stay right here and just breathe into the back body, or you can do eagle arms, interlacing the hands around or just moving them towards each other. Use a strap, right? Soften the upper traps. The elbows may lift, but if the traps lift with it, it defeats the purpose, right? So if you can keep the traps down and the elbows lift, you can usually get a pretty good upper trap stretch. Take a breath into that. And then release the arms. Whatever arm you had on top, do the other one. So you have hugging option. You have staying here and breathing into the ribs option. You have moving towards interlace option. And then this is everybody, no matter where your arms are, you can try this. Keep your upper traps out of it. If they come up, honestly, you're not getting a lot of benefit, right? If you can keep the upper traps down and lift the elbows, you'll lengthen the upper traps usually. Breathe into that. Release the arms down, put the hands on the thighs, feeling the buttocks bones root down. And I want to point out that you are incredibly similar pose-wise, shape-wise, shape-wise, shape-wise as to what you were doing when you were lying on your back at the very beginning of class. So if I put a wall against you, not for you to lean into, but to see at a biofeedback mechanism, right? With the back of your head, your shoulder blades, your low ribs, and the back of the sacrum touch that with equanimity. And of course, the low back would gently move forward towards your belly. Not that you have to push it there. Most of us don't. Most of us have to pull it back a little bit potentially. But you can kind of play with that. What side of the body do you need a little bit on balance on? Bring those hands together in front of your heart. Inhale. With an exhale, bow the head. Taking a moment of gratitude. You gave yourself the space and the time. Namaste, friends. May you be well, and may all beings everywhere be well. No exceptions, even the ones who challenge us.